here we go. Let's see what they can bring to the table. Would they change things around? I know Acolyte had a lot of fun in that last game, but now we are back to the serious business. eBRO, you can see, you know, getting back together, getting that chance, getting that team camaraderie. They look pretty relaxed in the break there. I'm not gonna lie, it didn't look like a team that just lost. I think they're coming into this with nothing to lose.
Yeah, I think you have to be realistically. Like, you clearly were outclassed a little bit in the first game. So you need to come into the second game with everything on the line. Just throw everything at the wall and see if something sticks. And I think that's the way that eBRO are going to have to approach this. They clearly are. And it's so funny because we were doing the sort of the pre-tournament analysis and research, and all that I could see from eBRO is that they just love to skirmish. They love to fight. They'll engage whenever they can. To see that in the flesh was hilarious. It was awesome to just see that that is their style and they stick to it, even when they're 10k gold down. Ezzez is like, nah, we're going in. And that is just really, really fun to watch. And I think that's a great style to have on broadcast. But I think Team Queso, you know, you're hoping for a clean 2-0 here if you're a European fan. It gets you off to a good start. They definitely are drafting very differently to some of the Southeast Asian and Chinese teams. But I think overall, Team Queso looking good, and you need them to look good in this matchup if you're a European fan.
And I do wonder, obviously, a lot of the research going into this saying, you know, that EBG likes to play through Tikz, play through the mid lane. The problem is when he's on a Galio, he's not the guy to play through. He is the support. So I wonder if, you know, maybe they took Galio as a opportunity more than anything else, and maybe they're going to switch it up and give him something that he can maybe carry with this time around. Same bans coming through so far as game one. Now I do wonder if they're thinking, do we ban Galio away and take that away from Ruiz?
Well, I mean, also it is one of the, again, with the Gragas down, it's one of the key elements that you pair up with the center. Or of course, it didn't matter for Team Queso this time round, and Team Queso were the type of team in the Origin series who didn't need to play fasting center to pick center. Ibu picked center as an AD carry, Memorized picked center as a support. It didn't matter who you paired it with, they just value that pick very highly overall. But Galio is the clear denial if you want to deny the standard fasting center duo lane, because if Galio is not picked up here, Aurelian Soul.
Okay.
That's interesting. It's definitely a spanner in the works. You don't get to play against Aurelian Soul that much, especially when you're scrimming. Not many people are picking this champion because it's not in a super strong spot right now.
It was Unicorns of Love that picked it. We were talking about it before the show, actually, wasn't it? It was Unicorns of Love that played it in the Origin Series finals. I don't know whether that was against Queso. I would have to double check. But for Queso, they're delighted. I mean, it gives them the center Galio. Yeah, the thumbs up comes out from Ruiz. It's just like, thanks for that, bros.
Yeah, legit. Like this is the iconic center lane that you run on the bottom side of the map here. Ibu will likely play center. However, I don't want to call it clear cut just yet because we know that Ruiz is a huge Galio player, right? So we know that Ruiz loves the Galio. So
we know that Hache loves Darius.
Exactly.
He got the pentacle on it, didn't he?
He did indeed. Darius is a very strong pick right now, especially given how heavy melee engaged type comps we are used to seeing. It's going to be the Olaf locked in now as well, so it's going to deny that away from Andre. Andre does have his Kha'Zix should he want it. Now, I would say the Kha'Zix in competitive is not as strong as it is in the solo queue ladder. Kha'Zix a lot easier to shut down, especially when you've got a lot of CC in your team, but Kha'Zix is available if Andre wants it. Ruiz is going to lock in the Twisted Fate, so that will be a Galio center bot lane here for Team Queso.
I'm going to go on a limb and say Kha'Zix is that missing ban. I reckon.
Okay, because we just don't have maybe we just don't have the icon up on stream. That might be the case.
Yeah. But Twisted Fate picked in once again for Ruiz. So we saw what he could do with it in the first game. We know he's going to be loving that split push. That's what obviously you bring to win the tables, and it does mean that Andre will be on the Graves.
Seen a lot of power in the Graves already. I mean, Ruiz showed that it was an incredible pick in that second game of the series versus FBTC. Andre is the standout player on the Team Queso roster, despite the fact that Acolyte obviously popped off in the previous game. It's usually been about Andre, so giving him the Graves is a great start. Zyra Khan would be the likely lock-in here.
Yep.
It's generally a pretty safe lane. It doesn't have any bad matchups realistically, and you know that you're going to have a lot of teamfight presence with that. And again, EBG drafting a very engage heavy comp once more. Like the Aurelian Soul engage, the Rakan engage. They're going to be looking to brawl. They're going to be looking to fight. That's what their team comp is all about. Let's see what Andre locks in though as a counter here. The Renekton is available should he want it, and I think Renekton is a relatively good choice all round right now. He's a really strong Baron lane pick. There is things like, I expected it. There were obviously things like the Riven, and it's really interesting to see how highly things like the Riven are taken away versus the Southeast Asian and Chinese teams. Yet Riven isn't even considered in these drafts, which is, I think, going to be one of those elements that really breaks up the regional meta, because Riven is widely considered one of the best picks in the game right now, but these two teams didn't even sniff the Riven. You know, that sounds like a terrible phrase. Sniff, but they didn't even look at the Riven when it came to their drafts. But Renekton is the sensible choice in this matchup to kind of round things out for Team Queso.
Yeah, I mean, it's the role reverse, right, of what Hache was up against in the previous matchup, obviously against Acolyte. The biggest part for me is obviously their choice of when and where to team fight. We saw, obviously, Jastley was looking for those engages, not always in the right time. That's what I want to see. I want to see improvements on that. Ezzez, of course, not going to be on the J4 this time around on the Olaf, so it's going to be having to run into those fights and try and back it up. Not a great deal of knock-up, actually. There is a relatively tanky front line going to be stomping through for EBG, but for Queso, this is something we've seen from them time and time again. This is a very comfortable lineup for them.
Yeah, this is, as you said, a ideal lineup for Team Queso. They'll have had months of experience playing these types of champions over the course of the last few months, especially eBRO. And I'm going to say, eBRO was one of those players going into the Origin series where we had doubts about his capabilities and about what he provided to the team. He absolutely giga-smurfed on Senna. Like when he was given Senna, he was really, really rolling over teams. And I think eBRO is one of those players that stepped up massively in that leap to the Origin series finals, and clearly, heading to the Horizon Cup, hopefully carrying that same momentum.
Absolutely. So we'll see how this one rolls out. People asking why they didn't pick Caitlyn. Caitlyn not available, as far as I'm aware. Two newer champions. Standardly, they're gonna have a certain amount of time in the open world before they're allowed to be played out in the tournaments like this.
Yeah, I think Caitlyn is one of those picks. I don't want to talk too much about it because she's not going to be available, obviously. Yeah. I don't think she's like insanely strong, but I think she's pretty good. I think she's one of those picks that will probably see competitive play when she's allowed. But alas, not available. We're not going to talk about too much about her. Let's focus on what we've got right now. I think Team Queso have got pure comfort here. And I think, Galio is a great tool as well to deal with heavy melee comps in his own right. Galio is, again, another very good anti-melee champion just because of the amount of CC that he provides in those kind of close quarter team fights. So this is actually another good addition to kind of shut down. Obviously, Olaf is a great answer because he can ignore all CC. Look at this, though. Fiesta in mid lane right now. Oof.
I mean, we're obviously looking towards this game and saying, will we see level 1 fights? We're like, nah. But you know what? They certainly go looking for it every time, but nobody's sort of pulling out the big fights yet. We'll see whether we get anything more coming out. But, of course, in terms of lane matchups, we've got the Darius, Renekton in the top lanes. We know what the jungler's all about. It is the Olaf and Graves. Down here in the Dragon lane, of course, the Xayah Rakan, a very popular combo that Queso themselves use a lot of, up against the Galio Senna. And we know what this one's all about. Senna is going to be a monster. Memorized is very good at those engages. Going to be looking towards those stunts from Ruiz, trying to make those big heroes entrances.
I think actually what we've seen a lot from Team Queso, especially their bot lane, is that reimagining of their identity. Like that identity of that they are only Xayah Rakan players is very much, shattered when we got to the Origin series. That's not what they played, and they actually opted away from that when they had it open to them several times. And I think that's something that we should try and keep in mind, is that actually, even though, be careful here,
cheeky undertow. Oh, Tikz having to
Ezzez just flashed that.
He did flash. I was looking I heard the flash noise. I was looking around. I was like, who flashed? And it was. He's just kind of failed flashed it, or
no? I think he anticipated the gold card, and actually Ruiz locked in the red card, but I think he anticipated the gold card.
But I'm pretty sure he flashed in on the spot. I don't think he went anywhere.
No, I thought he flashed away from Ruiz, but yeah, I just think he anticipated the gold card there, and therefore was like, I don't want to get stunned and then locked down by Graves. Looks like this is great. I actually really like this from eBRO though. Yep. There was cover on the blue buff from Tikz. He went over and covered that blue buff, and now it's a little slow in terms of vertical jungle splitting. There's a huge amount of priority in the bot lane again for eBRO Gaming, and they get a really good take on that blue side jungle. And actually now, I think Andreszed's gonna have to be a little careful. He doesn't exactly have priority mid, and so sticking around on top of that ward, it's very clear where he is right now.
Yeah, trying to hang around, gets himself damage down, but as you say, Hache is very much ready for this, and you've got to be very careful pushing onto Darius under the tower, as he just beautifully showed us there how dangerous he can be. He's just going to back away, so Jastley makes an appearance, just sending that support up there just in case. So, okay, right, let's start to focus. Objective time going to be coming up. We're obviously going to be starting to look towards the Rift Herald in just a few moments. It is going to depend on what the first dragon comes out. It is likely to be Queso that will focus on Rift Herald this time around.
Yeah, Ocean is not exactly a hugely impactful Drake, and so therefore you would feel with the fact that you've got a top lane priority naturally, you don't have bot lane priority. The Rift Herald would be the natural focus. Although I will say that Andre not quite on that side of the map, but I imagine he clears Gromp and heads towards his top red side. But yeah, I feel like just given how much natural priority you have on the Renekton lane, that would be your natural place to put the resources. And the fact is that you're struggling in this bot lane right now. Obviously not looking like it right now as they shove that lane in, but definitely feels like I would be focusing Rift Herald if I'm Team Queso this game.
Yeah, definitely going to be much slower pace as well because of that. Where is Twisted Fate going to go? It's going to go straight down, looking in towards Kite, but he should just be able to hop, skip, and a jump away from that one. So kind of a wasted jump, but there was no minion wave to worry about. So Ruiz almost just taxing the lane out. As it were, worth looking for it. Speaking of looking for it, Hache in trouble. Gets to use the barrier, and that was very well timed by Acolyte. Has he got the chance to dive in? Doesn't really have the minion. The apprehend coming out from Hache. He might be able to turn this one around to a dunk, but here comes Andre. That's why they were trying to wait for the collateral damage. Got dodged out of by Hache there, and that has backfired by Queso.
Yeah, and they still have the chance to go for the kill right now. There's the era's entrance.
Apprehend, not ready, not in time. Memorize comes in. Did he get the assist? Yes, he did, just in time there, and Andre will pick up the kill.
This is really good for eBRO now because they used that natural commit of resources from Queso and great defense, by the way, from Hache to make that happen. They used that natural commit of resources to go for the dragon uncontested, and because they wasted so much time top and Andre unfortunately wasn't able to get a setup on the Rift Herald, they are gonna double objective Queso very early on, which is an amazing start for eBRO Gaming. What a turn of events from their previous game. They're a little bit behind in gold right now, but this is a great start in terms of objective control for this team.
The main worry is when it comes to that big team fight comps that Queso are going to be looking for. They know how to stack out that hero's entrance with Acolyte. It's, you know, almost roles reverse exactly what EBG were trying to do in the previous game, but Queso may well execute it better. We will find out in a moment because you can see they're starting to sweep out for that Drake. With the Rift Herald gone away from them. Scuttlecraft could be huge, and that's going to get picked up by EBG.
I think Andre actually smited it away.
Did he?
So, yeah, he gets the smite.
Yes, he did. No, you're right. You're right. He's got it.
Don't think Ezzez was in position to get the smite off here. Right, I'm going into a bit of a split push pressure right now. You can see Ruiz just trying to pressure out Hache as much as possible. Hache does not have that Proto Belt right now.
He's looking to try and get something away from this one. Memorize actually in a bit of a sticky situation around the back there. Great flash away. Puts him out of the position now. And that should set up an easy Drake for Queso there. Just a little back away. And yeah, Ruiz using his ulti just to get himself back in mid, clear the wave.
Yeah, no Drake just yet, but obviously on the horizon pretty soon. And eBRO and Andre just going to shove this bot lane wave in. Loads of souls going straight over to eBRO is exactly what you want as a center. Just generate as many souls as possible in the early game. Like really a good barometer. By the time the second Drake comes around, you want to be hitting like 40. If you can hit 40 by the time the second Drake comes around, you're scaling really well. So this is a good start for eBRO, and he's going to be really, really happy that he's essentially gone unpunished in the early game. Like you give away a center lane like this, and you just let her scale up. That's not a good look for eBRO. I will praise eBRO for the way they've approached these objectives. The game is not won yet, man. There's a lot of work to go right now for eBRO to kind of take Queso on and actually really solidify a lead.
Different build approach as well for Hache. He's having to go, obviously, very defensive, tanky build instead, as opposed to what Acolyte did in the previous game, went very much for the damage early on and then get that Starks later on, but wasn't quite enough. Meanwhile, EBG still looking for something here. I mean, you always have that danger, right, with the Zyra account. We know that Ezzez loves to go, loves to go looking for those kills. Jastley doesn't make it work. He tries to engage on it, and that's a gold card that worked out well. They even throw the Rift Herald down, which really didn't get a great deal from that one.
No, really well played. Great flash from Ruiz. Knew exactly the danger points that he had to play around. And there goes Bree.
All around the back. Not going to work out. Acolyte, no. Double flash away. He still managed to get him down. And they're going to catch one on the tower as well. With a little slice and dice away on Jastley. And that is a double pickup for Queso.
As good as eBRO were around those first two objectives, they have not been managing their lanes and their rotations particularly well. They have been caught out by Queso's proactivity on the map, and you can see that eBRO just not quite sure how to secure their own side of the jungle, which is now allowing Team Queso to freely move through. That blue side jungle is lit up by Queso wards right now. Nothing there for eBRO. Take a look back at the Axe replay here and see exactly how this went down. Jastley just overcommitted. It was the flash from Ruiz that caught him off guard, and unfortunately, once that initial Rakan engage is gone, you don't really have much left in the tank to follow up. Great little lock-up onto Jastley, and Acolyte jumps in. The charm to try and get himself away, but he just flash ignites him to make sure he goes down. Did a great start. Another engage.
Big engage. That's a great knock-up from the Rakan. Great grand challenge. The hero's entrance was backed up, though, from Memorize to the layer on top of it, unfortunately, for EBG, and that does mean that Ezzez went down, but eBRO was picked off there, so a 1-for-1 trade. Oh no, he just walked straight into that. You've got to be expecting the gold card there. Jastley luckily able to get out of that with the Rakan.
But it's the setup before the Infernal, which is the most important thing for Team Queso right now. They've burnt a lot of key ultimates. You can see Hache coming round to try and buy some time, but Andre takes this down too quickly, and that'll be a free Infernal for Team Queso. 5k gold ahead. Not as dominant as the first. Oh, that's a bit of an overextension.
Yeah, but it's a red card. It wasn't a gold, so Ruiz doesn't have any mana, by the way, left. He won't be able enough to pull a card out in a minute. Acolyte can't get involved. He's got to pull away from this one. Ruiz getting focused down. The Aurelia Soul coming in and putting quite a bit of damage down this time from Tikz.
Yeah, that mid lane tower is like millimeters from dropping. That's not the right term for a tower health, but it's close to going down, so they have to be so careful about the way they defend it. That mid lane fight has allowed eBRO Gaming to pick up the second Rift Herald of the game. If they want to drop that mid, that is a free tower, but obviously, you know, you could tickle that tower and it will go down right now, so they might want to use it for something more effective, especially when setting up for maybe the next Drake 2. eBRO keeping themselves in punching range of Team Queso, but 6,000 gold is pretty significant at this stage in the game. And you have to realize the scaling, apart from the Aurelian Soul, the scaling is wildly in favor of Team Queso. And so when it comes to the late game, and when it comes to the way that they want to play these fights, that's Ruiz getting caught out though.
He has got caught out, but Andre just joins there. He just picked up the red buff as well. Yeah, comes straight through. Takes down Ezzez immediately, and they're all just grouping up. He's just popping that shotgun off. They're locked in place. The hero's entrance comes down. Acolyte's just going to run on through the team. Tikz tries to get away from that one. He'll be finished off as well. Then Acolyte turns straight into Jastley. He can tank the turret, and everything goes Queso's way. Just about the worst timing on the engage, because everyone was collapsing for Queso.
Let's take a look again. Ruiz a little bit. I mean, that was wild from Ruiz, like a proto belt into the middle of the enemy team. No wonder eBRO Gaming trying to punish him. But eBRO provides the exit strategy for Ruiz here, and again, Andre's just too strong at this point in time. Very difficult to take him down. Acolyte joins and flanks to the edge of the fight. Ruiz looks for a Twisted Fate ultimate to try and find another pick up on the side. And Acolyte's too beefy. He's got so much gold. He's got so many items in his favor. The item spike's there for the Renekton right now. And Team Queso just utilizing their gold advantage. This is what we call a gold dip in team fights, by the way, Lee.
just a bit, right? They're utilizing it pretty darn well as well. The problem is that obviously they're stacking up the fights, and that's, you know, kind of what EBG almost have to do to funnel in. But when they funnel like that, it's leading into the damage from Acolyte, from Andre, from eBRO, from Memorize. They're just dunking all that damage down on top of them. And just like that, yeah, Ezzez has been looking to try and set those fights up. And I think we're into, you know, a situation as like the first game where it's almost trying to force the fights when there's no fight to be had.
Yeah, and I think you're now 10k gold down as well versus Queso. Like, you force the fights because it's the only thing that you feel you can do. I still think you lose this.
Yeah, Acolyte, I don't think he's going to come out on top, but now, of course, he has the Destiny help coming through. No gold card pulled out, though. I think he may have hit minion with it.
Didn't realize we were seeing a reincarnation of Reginald this game.
I mean, TSM are in the tournament. Oh no,
no, they are. They are.
They're in the other group.
Ruiz almost getting caught out by the Proto Belt, but he'll be backed up by eBRO. This is Hache versus the world right now. Another gold card from Ruiz should lock this down, but they're a little too close to safety, and you can see the again, like this is, I love this from eBRO, just going in, even when you're not going to win, just going in.
Just keep committing, it might pay off, but it's not going to happen once again. Kite tries to get away, the flash through is not enough. He gets caught out by the card from Ruiz, and another 3-0 as the game tumbles away, and Queso look to take control and head for Baron.
Yeah, I mean, they're in complete dominance right now. It's so difficult if you're eBRO. And like I said, it may look stupid what they're doing, but what the theory behind what eBRO are trying to do here is because Queso are so wildly split, and they have been across the map in both the last games, eBRO are trying to say, let's just go for the in-game.
Yeah, I mean, they caught Andre, right?
No, exactly. They caught Andre, but Andre's just too strong to focus down now. He's become that pseudo-tank that the Graves becomes later into the game. And I think eBRO have the right idea in theory. Like, they're trying to find man advantage picks. Like, if you're this far, like, they love it though. They love it. if you're this far behind, when it comes to global gold and item spikes, the only way that you do win is by forcing significant man advantages, and that's what they're trying to do. Like, I commend them for that, but it's just a gold dip right now. There's nothing you can do about that.
He's just realized that's not the target he wanted. Goes straight to memorize, and Andre is there. And Andre, look at that! He just keeps on pushing. Collateral damage under the turret. Baroned up minions coming through. Meanwhile, in the jungle, eBRO now going off on Kite. That is not a fair fight anymore, I'm afraid. eBRO is way too far ahead in terms of item spikes on that Senna. And the turrets will fall. And this should be a quick 2-0. For Queso. A game that, in fairness, both these teams really need to win in their groups. It is a tough group ahead of them. Both these teams will be up against it. There's no doubt about it. But Queso will be delighted with the start that they have had. A 2-0 over eBRO.
And I think, as I've reiterated throughout this series, if you're a Queso fan, this is the result that you needed to see. Not just wanted, you needed to see this result. And the reason being is that Queso, there are question marks about how their scrims have been going. Some info on the ground is that they haven't been having the best of times. And I think as a European fan, you want your team to kind of represent the region and kind of like really show that we're a powerhouse to be contended with. If you're struggling against a team that has clearly come in as the major underdogs, and it doesn't bode well. So the fact that they were incredibly dominant, that's a good sign if you're a European Queso fan, because that's what you need to see coming into this series.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of confidence as well, it's something that could work out for Queso. We know they're a confidence-building team. That will give them a lot of motivation going forward. And sure, they've all had scrims. They may well have realized that we possibly could be picking this game up quite well. But certainly from a European perspective, it's great to see Queso going out there and delivering. They certainly did it on LAN in Stockholm for the Origin series, and obviously they are the European representatives. What are you trying to do, Ruiz? Oh, they just want a simple selfie shot. There we go. Smile for the camera, boys. There we go. Wonderful stuff. Team Queso, your winners here. 2-0. Simple victory overall. I don't think, in fairness, we saw anything new, though, from Queso. Did we?
No, we didn't see much new. I think this is kind of what the bread and butter of the Queso comps that we were expecting. And I think that's what they needed to do. They didn't need to show anything exciting versus, eBRO. eBRO are technically the weakest team in the group by all analyst standards, and so therefore, if you want to just go in and play comfort and play what you're good at to secure the win, that was probably the correct decision from Team Queso. And they look good. They're cheeky. They're having fun, and that's what we like to see from them, because that's the personality that drove